Yeah. Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob only.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The midweek edition of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Let's get it going. Good to have you guys. Welcome back for 3 hours of sports talk radio excellence. I am Rob Brown, your ever so humble yet frequently correct and, dare I say, dashingly good-looking host. Directly across from me, not the great one, out on a well-deserved vacation over on the beach. We got my man Brandon rolling on the ones and twos. What's up, big fella?
I'm ready. Hey, it's Wednesday. Look at that. It is sunny outside. It's 87 degrees today. I'm good. What about you?
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
We got tomorrow. We will have the show live on location. We will be out at Thornblade Country Club, where we will be broadcasting live from the opening of the BMW Pro-Am. Very much looking forward to that. We're hopefully going to have a laundry list of guests parading through on tomorrow's show. Of course, as always, we will have Rashad Beard on tomorrow at 9:35, 9:40. We'll talk Carolina Panther football. At 10 o'clock tomorrow, have a very special guest joining us on the show. Jay Busby is a national writer for Yahoo Sports. For those of you that can remember the distant past, when I came up here to do the audition, Jay was one of the guys that I interviewed then. We've had him on a number of times since then. Jay covers golf nationally for Yahoo Sports. We will have him on tomorrow with a couple of days of hindsight to discuss this Live Tour PGA Tour merger that really was the news yesterday. And it was not just the news. It was one of those stories that kind of transcended sports, right? Like, we were talking about it on the sports outlets, but you could flip it on to just about any network channel as well, and they were breaking it down too. So it is without a doubt, a story that is bigger than just sports. And I get it. There are some social overtones to it that I think need to be addressed as well. And as I've said, and we're going to get into them here in just a few minutes, as I've said on this broadcast, as I've said on every broadcast, I understand wanting politics out of sports, wanting social issues, social discussions out of sports. And for the most part, we leave them out because I understand that the overwhelming majority of you who come to this show and come to this station, come to the show and come to the station to get away from all of that, right? Like, sports are supposed to be an escape. You might be sitting behind a desk at the bank today or at your mortgage company, worried about what the Fed is going to do to interest rates. You might be sitting out in a cop car or behind a desk at a charitable organization concerned about the relations between law enforcement and the public, or socioeconomic issues, or the homeless, or whatever else. These are all issues that we all have to deal with regularly. And sometimes it's nice to be able to just turn your brain off, take a break, and watch really tall dudes try to put a ball through a hoop and make millions of dollars doing it. I understand that you want this to be a break. And that is why I have said the show operates on the theory of a Venn diagram, right? This circle over here is sports. This is where you get your needless break from reality. And then there's another circle over here that is real life. And that's where your mortgage payments, and that's where your insurance rates, and that's where all of that real difficult stuff about life takes place. But there's just a little sliver in the middle. There's just a little spot in the middle where those two circles overlap each other, where sports and society have to be discussed together. And I think the Live Tour PGA Tour merger is one of those places, which is why it is, as far as I am concerned, one of the times we are going to have to break that rule of, we try to stay away from politics in the real world and our sports, right? Like I have described this show many times, despite the fact that it's on at 9 a.m. I want it to have the feel of bellying up to the bar, ordering a nice tall whiskey, and just talking about sports with your friends, right? Talking sports with the boys, talking sports with your amigas, talking sports with your clique. That's what this is supposed to feel like. But I think just like that conversation, right? You go to the bar with your buddies to have a drink and just shoot the boat and enjoy yourself a little bit. Sometimes there are overwhelming and ever-present conversations that invade what is supposed to be just kind of like a relaxing social occasion where something happens and you go, this is too big for us not to talk about, right? I want to have this conversation with you, the people that I trust the most. And I think that bleeds over into this show too. Yes, we like to have a good time on this show. We like to make bad jokes on this show. We like to talk about stuff that is fun and funny on this show. I think more often than we don't. But at the same time, I don't think you can always avoid those spots where something in real life happens that is so big, that is so influential on culture as a whole, you can't avoid it. And I think the Live Tour PGA Tour merger has kind of reached that because on one hand, we just want to talk about golf, right? On one hand, yes, if these two organizations were two great, ethical, unquestioned organizations, then I think it would be very, very fair to just go, how great is this for golf? How bad is this for golf? Would it have been better if golf still had two tours? Would it have been better if golf had two different outlets, two different organizations? Would it have been better if we had a setup where there was a league over here doing battle and a league over here doing battle, and 4 or 5 or 6 times a year, they all met up at the same course to see who was better, right? Yeah, I think that would be awesome. But that's not the case, right? That's not the case. On one hand, you have Live Tour backed by the Saudis, a group with direct connections to 9/11. You have a group backed by the Saudis, a group that are known for murdering journalists for having the audacity of writing a news story about them. You have on the flip side, the PGA Tour, a tour that I think it is now safe to say just screwed their players. Screwed them. Right? It screwed them, and it screwed the guys who had an opportunity and offer to join the Live Tour and elected not to. It screwed them twice, right? Because on one hand, it begged them for loyalty, and it used all of the human emotions to do so. It begged them for loyalty. It begged them to come to the defense, to come to the aid of the PGA Tour, and they did. Tiger Woods passed up $250 million. He was offered to play Live Tour to defend the PGA, and he did it. Rory McIlroy turned down somewhere between $300 and $400 million to carry the flag for the PGA Tour and showed loyalty. He did. Hell, Will Zalatoris. Quick, name me the last Will Zalatoris memory you have. We all know him effectively as the guy who looks like the caddy from Happy Gilmore. Like, that's his claim to fame. Had an offer of $100 million to go play on the Live Tour. He turned it down to remain loyal to the PGA. And what are they getting for it? All of that money that could have gone to Tiger and Rory and Will Zalatoris and John Rahm and all these other cats. Hundreds of millions of dollars that could have gone to them instead now goes to Jay Monahan. Instead now goes to the PGA Tour, right? So not only did you screw them out of hundreds of millions of dollars of players as players, Not only did you ask him to turn away generational wealth, not that Tiger Woods is hurting for cash, but I don't care if you already have $100 billion or $100 million. $100 million is still a ass load of money. All right. So you ask them to turn down generational wealth, dynasty making wealth to defend the honor of the PGA Tour, which they did. And then you laid down the PGA Tour and then you took that money. So all that money that those players rejected based on the plea of Jay Monahan, based on the pleas of the PGA Tour, all of that money was rejected by the players. And now guess who has that money? Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour officials, who have now laid down the flag of the PGA Tour that they asked the golfers to carry on their behalf. Do you not understand why these golfers are so furious? I think it's easily understandable. Again, I get that there's a lot of gray area here. For instance, I've said this on the show before. I am adamantly against the Saudi crown family. I am adamantly against the state, not the people, but the state of Saudi Arabia. I think it is a bad place led by bad people who have done some bad things. But I can also tell you, because I feel an obligation to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, that if my phone rang tomorrow and I got a call from the Live Tour that said, Rob Brown, we would like you to come do color commentary for a Live Tour event, and we will pay you $100 million a year to do it, I'm gone, y'all. I'm gone. I'm out. That's not a question. That's a statement, right? So I understand why a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, why a guy like Phil Mickelson might take that money. You were talking about, even if you were already loaded, you are still talking about, for a guy like Phil, I don't remember exactly what his contract was, but Tiger was offered 7 to 8, so I imagine Phil was probably offered in the ballpark of $500 million. I don't care if you have $500 million. $500 million is a lot of money, right? So if they called me and said, Rob, we want to fly you out to wherever, the best I think I could do would be, all right, you know what? I'm going to take that money and I'm going to donate 20% of it to charitable organizations who are trying to better human rights around the globe. But $80 million would buy my mom the biggest house she wanted wherever she wanted it. It would make sure that my nephew never hurt for a dime in his life. Yeah, man, I'm putting you on college scholarship. You go be a theater major if that's what you want to do. I got you covered, big dog. That money would buy myself and the fiance a private jet to hop the globe as we wish to do, right? Like, that is generational money. I get why you would take it while also being anti-Saudi Arabia. That's not the problem. The problem isn't Jay Monahan taking the money. The problem is, see, the difference between me and Jay Monahan here. The difference between me and Jay Monahan is that I can look you all in the face, or in this case, in this webcam, that you can watch the show live streamed at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, by searching The Fan Upstate on YouTube or The Rob Brown Show on Twitch. I can look you virtually in your eyes, and I can say, yeah, I think the Saudis are bad. I think the Saudi royal family is bad. I think the government of Saudi Arabia is bad. I don't endorse them. I don't condone anything about them. I don't like them. But if they offered me $100 million to be a play-by-play guy on the Live Tour, I am taking it. And I am taking it because even if it is blood money, which it probably is, I'm donating $20 million back to a charitable organization that flies in the face of Saudi Arabia. And then me and my family are never working another day in our lives. We're all set forever, right? And that right there is the difference between me and Jay. I'm not sitting here going, nope, wouldn't take it. Wouldn't take it, wouldn't touch it, don't want anything to do with it, because I don't think that's true. Jay Monahan did the exact opposite. In fact, let's do this. Let's run to a break. I do not anticipate the entire show. I don't anticipate the majority of the show being about this golf merger. But it is going to be a part of it. Because, again, it is one of, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest sports stories of our lifetime. Not just because of the golf. It is because of what the Saudis are trying to do in sport. They are doing it right now. They have officially created what is not called, but should be, Live Soccer. And they are bringing some of the world's best talent to Saudi Arabia to play football. They are doing that in F1 racing as well, which is going to be one of the most popular sports on planet Earth. This is a huge and impactful story, and I think it deserves some time. So when we come back, I've got sound from Jay Monahan, from players, from reporters around the world of golf, and I'll get that for you, as well as our reaction on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. Great to have you guys. Joey B, Skrilla, everybody else. Yeah, but again, like, even if you have $1 billion, $500 million is a stupid amount of money, right? I'm going to do this without a keyboard. Come on, computer. Yay, we did it. Good job, everybody. All right, give me 30 seconds, guys. Got to grab something from the office. Be right back. All right, dudes. Thanks for hanging out. We're back. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Will Zalatoris got offered $100 million to play on the Live Tour. That's straight up plus his winnings. That's to ask him not to take that and then immediately take that money it's screwed up, dude. Yep, that's exactly right, Skrilla. In fact, we're going to point that out here in just a minute on the air. They weren't flippant. They knew exactly what they were doing. This was not like a, oh, sure, I guess we can take it decision. This was calculated. They said they were in negotiations for 7 weeks. But the interesting thing, and we're going to talk about this on the air, a little bit of a stream preview, is this decision was made by Jay Monahan and 2 members of the PGA Tour board. Not a player was told about it. Players learned about it yesterday at the same time that we did. That's screwed up from an association that loves to tout how their player run, right? Players have a voice. No, they don't. They clearly don't. Let's see. Probably straight up number 1. You see there 1A, 1B, all that. Okay. Probably number 1 outright, but I'll call him out on the air as we get to him.
Featuring construction and farm equipment, trucks, trailers, and more. Bid your way live on site or online at jeffmartinauctioneers.com. Experience the difference. License 4283.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob, Brandon on the 1s and 2s, filling in for the great one today. If you want to be a part of the radio broadcast, you have opportunities and options. 844-326-3663 is the number. Text us, 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them live on the air. Or you can tweet me at The Rob Brown Show if you are on Twitter. You can go to at The Fan Upstate on Facebook if you are not. And, of course, if you got something more long format, but you don't want to go on the air, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com is the email address. All of those options available for you today. All right, let's run through some sound and give some thoughts on this. Brandel Chambly is a reporter for the Golf Network. Well, reporter and talking head for the Golf Network. And he has been involved in a feud for some time with Phil Mickelson. Phil, obviously a LIV Tour golfer, has been trying to defend that tour. This is the same guy, Phil Mickelson, who, when he joined the LIV Tour, said that he was working with some, quote, very scary people, end quote, in the Saudi royalty that effectively created funds, runs the LIV Tour. And so Brandel Chambly got into it with Phil. They have been organizing, or at least pretending to, for social media purposes, a public, moderated, neutral site debate between the two of them about whether or not the LIV Tour is good or whether it is bad. Brandel Chambly yesterday, a guy who's been a very outspoken critic of the LIV Tour just in operation, before this even happened yesterday, had this to say about the merger.
Joining us now, our colleague, Brandel Chambly, who's been very outspoken in this story. Brandel, your reaction to this news and this merger today?
Well, like everyone else, when I first heard about it, I was completely shocked. I can't imagine that too many people outside of maybe the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people that were in the room that brought this merger to fruition would have known anything about it. After the shock sort of ebbed away, I was hugely disappointed. I think this is one of the saddest days in the history of professional golf. I do believe that the governing bodies, the entities, the professional entities have sacrificed their principles for profit. And then, of course, I tried to imagine what circumstances would have led to such a capitulation. I think there are three things likely that would have led to something like this, as Jody was just talking about previous. Intractable legal issues going on indefinitely into the future, no doubt with legal vulnerability on both sides of this issue. And the only people that stood to profit from that were the lawyers that were involved. And then, of course, I think, entanglement of the various business entities and sponsors that the PGA Tour has that have Saudi money, PIF money in them. And I think it became increasingly difficult for the PGA Tour to disentangle themselves from that scrutiny and from that criticism. And then, of course, the fact that there would be billions of dollars on the table for potentially the growth of the game globally at, I say, in the best case scenario. It could have been any one of those. It could have been a combination of all three of those. But at least in my view, those three issues were at play. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what led to this merger.
So that is Brandel Chambly. Says there's a lot of moving parts here. But the biggest part of that was at the very beginning when he said this is maybe the saddest day in the history of golf. And I'm not going to lie, I'm wrestling with this whole thing, right? I'm wrestling with this because to me, the roughest part about this is not the sale. Ownership in sports changes all the time, right? It's just that the PGA Tour is kind of viewed like the NFL. Like, could you imagine waking up one day and hearing that the NFL has been sold? Like, no, except for maybe, right? Because there is a rumor, and I'm going to make sure that I underline, emphasize, bold, italicize, and slant rumor. But right now, the Saudi Arabians are trying to prop up effectively a national soccer league, which fine. Every country has tried to do that, except for, just like with the PGA Tour, the Saudis effectively have unlimited resource mode turned on in this game. So they are trying to bring in names like Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi. They're trying to bring in cantors. They're trying to bring in the biggest names in football to go play in Saudi Arabia so that not only do they have a national league, but they have a national league that people want to watch more than they don't want to support the Saudi royal family, the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, et cetera, et cetera. And this takeover of golf kind of creates a situation where you go, is it inevitable, right? Because at the end of the day, and I think this is the biggest takeaway from yesterday's merger, at the end of the day, nothing matters more than money to most people, right? Again, I'm not even going to sit here and claim that I'm on top of the high horse, ethically speaking. And I'm not going to say that because, again, if I got an offer of $100 million from the Saudi Arabian Live Tour, I have to take it.
I think I understand where they're coming from because they didn't talk to the players. They just wanted it under the books, didn't tell them anything like that. Hey, let's do a vote. Like, a lot of leagues like the National Basketball Association, the hockey, the football, they all have unions. They all do votes to see, would you vote for this, X, Y, and Z? Look at for expansion teams in leagues. They had those votes. They have to talk to the players about it. And what they did was they only had 3 or 4 people in the room and said, let's just do this deal. I understand why he said it's the saddest day in golf history because he didn't include the players. He just, to me, it feels like he sold out and just said, I'll take the money and run.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that middle part there, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the next step is. The next step is the players unionize, right? The next step is at least the American players, though I would not be surprised to see the international players, whether it is in an international union or they all join this one. The next step is the players unionize to prevent this from happening, right? And again, I think this has been a strategy from the PGA Tour. They have been talking and bragging for years about how they are a player-run league, right? We let the players have a voice. except for in what I think is genuinely the biggest decision to ever be made in golf happened yesterday. And now we know the players did not get a voice. And we know the players did not get a voice because if I can get clip 1G here, please, Brandon. Johnson Wagner is a reporter as well. He had ties to the meeting that took place yesterday that was a players' meeting. And suffice to say, they weren't happy.
It was contentious. There were many moments where certain players were calling for new leadership at the PGA Tour and even got a couple standing ovations. I think the most powerful moment was when a player quoted Commissioner Monahan from the 3M in Minnesota last year when he said, as long as I'm commissioner of the PGA Tour, no player that took live money will ever play the PGA Tour again.
Yeah, that went well. The players at least had the precursory conversation to discuss the possibility of new leadership of the PGA Tour. And let me be very clear here. Good, right? Good. Now, I don't think up until yesterday that Jay Monahan has been a bad commissioner. I don't. I think Jay Monahan handled the creation, establishment, foundation of the LIV Tour from the PGA Tour angle about as well as anybody could have. That was tough. It's not that you're going up against a league that provides better competition. That's not the case. It's that you're going up against a league that doesn't care about making money. You're going up against a league that doesn't care if it isn't profitable because they have unlimited resources. They're not worried about it. The Saudis are sitting on oil, maybe the most, good, bad, or ugly, important resource on planet Earth, right? Wars have been fought over this stuff, and they have a lot of it, like a lot of it. So their resources are effectively infinite because with the Saudi influence and with their influence over OPEC, et cetera, if it ever gets to the point that money becomes less important, they just jack up the cost of oil a little bit and they get all their losses back. They're playing on God mode, so to speak. Now, Jay Monahan, I would label as having been a pretty good commissioner, right? And I can say that because even though golf isn't one of the big four, right? NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. It's not one of the big four. But every time we talk about commissioners, 9 out of 10 times we talk about commissioners on this show, it's here's a dumb thing a commissioner said and or did, right? Because the commissioners, by and large, as I've said a million times and will a million more, the commissioners, by and large, are in place to be mouthpieces for the owners of the league. When you hear Roger Goodell come out and say something dumb about the NFL, you have to understand that is not Roger Goodell's an idiot. That is Roger Goodell is a sellout, but Roger Goodell is nothing more than a mouthpiece for Jerry Jones and Bob Kraft and the rest of these owners who want these things that we don't like to happen, but they just know they can't be the ones that take the heat, right? It's like politicians. It's like a politician in Washington who's going to come back to your state and go, everybody else in D.C. is evil. I'm the good one. I'm the good one. Except for they all say it. It's kind of the same thing. I know Monahan's an okay commish, or at least was until yesterday, because every time that we bring up commissions saying and doing bad things on the show, never once have we brought up Jay Monahan. Never once have we said, yeah, and then there's this clown Jay Monahan. That's Roger Goodell's name. Never once have we called him Skeletor like we have with Adam Silver, right? We've never done any of that. Because Monahan, it felt like by and large, but now we find out that the whole we let the players have a say thing was lip service and nothing else. Lip service and nothing else. And here's why. Let me grab clip 1F. This is Pat McAfee, one of my favorites in the game. Pat McAfee talked about this yesterday, and I'm just going to say McAfee sounds a lot like me.
Now, there's a lot of golf bloggers and golf media people who, at one point, were way on their high horse.
I remember. Up there.
About how the PGA would never do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
The PGA is the golf tour. The PGA is everything in the golf society. It doesn't matter how many fake tournaments you play in over there with that sports washing league you're going to.
What?
You are doing the game harm. You are doing the game wrong.
What?
And that's why Jay Monahan is our hero. We're on a high horse.
That's right.
Right to Jay Monahan house. Anything he needs, we are going right to. Seemingly, that's what the golf community was doing.
For a long time.
And then Jay Monahan, who was at the front on the horse, said, wait a minute, how much?
Wait a second.
Hold up.
Let's turn his
Let's-
name.
Let's sit down.
Yeah. Pat McAfee channeling his inner Rob Brown right there. Because that's it. The frustration is not the sale. Again, I think the majority of us, if we had to look into the mirror and really be honest with ourselves, if we got offered the type of money that PGA Tour players were offered to move to the Live Tour, if we got offered the type of money that I'm sure we're going to find out Jay Monahan ultimately made in this deal, especially now that they went for profit and he is the CEO of a now for-profit multi-million-dollar corporation. If we had to be truly honest with ourselves and look in the mirror and say, yeah, we're anti-Saudi Arabia, but would I take that money? The overwhelming majority of us would say yes. Yes, we would. The taking of the money is not the thing I have a problem with. The taking of the money is the fact that this is the same Jay Monahan. In fact, you know what? Here, let me tell you who this Jay Monahan is. Grab me clip 1E if you don't mind, Brandon. Then we'll take a break. This is Jay Monahan. This clip is the same Jay Monahan from about a year and a couple of months ago. The exact same guy said this.
Well, I talked to players. I've talked at a player meeting, and I've talked to a number of players individually for a long period of time. And I think you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that there are significant implications. And as it relates to the families of 9/11, I have two families that are close to me that lost loved ones. And so my heart goes out to them. And I would ask, any player that has left or any player that would ever consider leaving, have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour?
Yeah, that's the same Jay Monahan. Listen, I think, in fact, coming up in the next segment, and then we'll be done with this, I promise. I think there's a very good reason for the PGA Tour to have sold out to the Live Tour. I think there's one very good reason. I'm going to tell you what it is coming up in a minute. It is not the sale. It is not the taking of money. It is that Jay Monahan said that, right? It is that Jay Monahan said that. It is that Jay Monahan screwed over a lot of players on tour and then took the exact same money that he gave lectures about. Well, Rob, didn't you say you take the taking of the money isn't the problem. $100 million. Now, I'll tell you this, if they called me and offered me $1 million, I'd probably take that. I've never had $1 million. It sounds awesome. I could take care of my family. I could take care of myself. Work becomes an option, not a mandate. That sounds amazing. So it's not the problem with the money. The problem is that Jay Monahan screwed a lot of people. Jay Monahan comes across as a hypocrite, and then yesterday had the audacity, I almost said a bad word there, had the audacity to go, well, I know some people might call me a hypocrite. I'm just speaking. Shut up, dude. Shut up. I'll tell you more about what he said, as well as what I truly think there was a good reason for the PGA Tour to make that sale. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back. My name is Rob Brown. Brandon's on the ones and twos. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You're listening to The Fan Upstate.
From the Angels Market Studio, The from the Free Odyssey. Owner of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. I'm so proud that we've helped over 15,000 businesses claim over $5 billion in cash incentives. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. Every client is assigned a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to accurately determine eligibility. Innovation Refunds has hundreds of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google, and your business might be entitled to receive up to $26,000 per employee. Businesses of all types can qualify, including medical, professional, construction, even nonprofits. Please don't miss out on this. Even your doctor would tell you to get an expert second opinion, and we do a lot of work for doctors. Download the Innovation Refunds app now, or go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of $26,000 per employee. Getrefunds.com. Getrefunds.com.
If you're hired, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free.
The PGA Tour does not have until yesterday, Skrilla did not have shareholders because the PGA Tour until yesterday was actually a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which is hilarious to me. But they were a not-for-profit organization. They are not anymore. So I'm curious as to whether or not there will be a new financial structure in place. Like, will I be able to become a shareholder in the PGA Tour? I don't know is the answer yet. I don't think they've really gotten into any of those details. But up until yesterday, no, there were no shareholders because the PGA Tour was considered a charity. Isn't that adorable? I love it.
I want to know what Monahan got out of this deal.
Who? Oh, Jay?
Yeah, that's what he got.
A lot of damn money.
He's got to be maybe 30. Maybe he got like $30 billion.
Yep.
Now.
Is here for a limited time. Only a DQ. Nothing tastes good.
Next up, straight talk from Doug. Ever notice that saying no offense is offensive? Like, no offense, but you're overpaying for your wireless. See? Offensive. That's the Straight Talk Talker. Get unlimited plans as low as $35 a month from Straight Talk, and America's most reliable 5G network.
Correct. It is hilarious. LOL is the right response.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Now try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/FREE.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving with new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping.
He became a hedge fund guy immediately. Yup.
Vehicles for a cleaner, future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
So why, oh why, will the PGA Tour sell to the LIV Tour? We'll start with this. Reason number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, up to a lot is money. The Saudis likely put billions of dollars on the table. An offer that was just too high to pass up. There's actually a good argument for why the PGA Tour and the Saudis would have made this deal if we're just talking golf. LIV Tour golfers took 2 of the 4 majors this year. While they are not doing wonderful things on television, sure, their golfers are competing with and in many cases beating PGA Tour golfers consistently. Go back to the last 2 majors. Majors that those of us who follow these drama and storylines, we were really excited to see Rory versus the LIV Tour. And the LIV Tour ran Rory off the golf course, right? As much as the PGA Tour tried to sell us all that the LIV Tour was irrelevant, when they played head-to-head, the LIV Tour was doing work against the PGA Tour. And that kind of created the problem in its entirety here. So it makes sense that the PGA Tour would have merged with the LIV Tour because it gets rid of any possibility that in 3 years or 13 years or 30 years, the LIV Tour, which by the way, that also gives them that much time to continue to convince golfers to come over, right? Because we all put up a stink when Phil and Bryson and DJ and all these other guys made their way over there. We all put up a stink, and then after about a year, that stink went away, right? It was still gross to hear about the Saudis, but the LIV Tour got, pardon the expression, normalized to some degree. And because it got normalized to some degree, the LIV Tour would have likely continued to keep working on guys like Brooks Koepka. Hey, Brooks, how about $500 million to you to come play for us? You feeling good about that? And as James just said, as always, your morals eventually take a back seat when someone flashes a big enough check at you. Again, that is why, as gross as it's made me feel, I have been very honest here on the show when I've said if the LIV Tour called me and offered me $100, hell, if they called me and offered me $1 million to be a ninth hole turn commenter, I got to take it, dudes. It's not because I support them, I like them, I endorse them. It is because there is nothing more important on planet Earth to me than my family and my well-being. And $1 million would go a long way. And this may shock you. They take wonderful care of me here at the Fan Upstate. I do not get paid $1 million salary, right? Now, if I was making $1 million here and they offered me $1 million, I wouldn't take it. But $1 million sets my family up for life, sets me and the fiance up for life. For life. For life. Yeah, I'm gone, dude. Right? This is why I say the merger, not necessarily the worst decision. The merger, to some degree, makes sense. The LIV Tour was only competitively, not in terms of audience yet, but if they continue to grow, if they continue to push forward and actually competing with PGA on the greens, that down the road that might be the case, right? Down the road that might be the case. So that, I think, is likely why they would have made that move. Let me get clip 1C real quick before we run to a break. Because this is what I think a lot of people have hinged their take on. It is the relationship with the Saudis, who are really scary people. That's Phil Mickelson's words, not mine. Jay Monahan got asked directly to his face in his press conference yesterday about working with the Saudis, and he responded like this.
Positively, I mean, you're describing a scenario under which PIF at some point could have the majority of the economics, correct me if I'm wrong, of this entity. Essentially, the Saudis sort of, people will say, oh, they control golf around the world. I'm just curious as to what you think the response is going to be.
Well, listen, a lot of people have been reading about the tension, and that we've talked a lot. And I said previously that we were going down our path, they were going down theirs. And today, that tension goes away. The litigation is dropped. We're announcing to the world that on behalf of this game, we're coming together. And it's less about how people respond today, and it's all about how people respond in 10 years. And when they see the impact that we're having on this game together, there'll be a lot of smiles on people's faces, and there'll be a lot more people playing this game all over the world. And if you're a young player that wants to get to the highest level of the game today, you'll be more inspired than you've ever been before.
A lot of smiles on people's faces. That's so adorable, Jay.
Somehow I don't see that happening, because if we talk about it now, what makes you think within 10 years, everything's like, oh, I'm so happy that the Saudis have backed the PGA Tour now and we got that money. I just don't see it happening.
A lot of people are justifiably upset about this. Justifiably upset for a variety of different reasons. There's the connection with the Saudis. There's screwing over of the players, which is a big part of it for me. You asked Rory and Tiger and these other guys to carry your flag, and then you laid that flag down for the money that you screwed them out of. It's yours now. This is some mafia boss stuff right here. It is the blatant and overwhelming hypocrisy for me. That's what gets me about this. It is the blatant and overwhelming hypocrisy from a cat that, in Jay Monahan, that had no problem last year playing emotion, right? I 9/11 and the families, and I would ask the players, have you ever had to apologize for playing on the PGA Tour? And the answer at the time was no. But then he immediately went out and created a situation where, guess what, cats? They all play for the LIV Tour now. Every one of them who publicly eschewed the LIV Tour and turned down tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to do it. Every one of those players now plays for the LIV Tour. And oh, by the way, they didn't get $100 or $400 or $600 or $700 or $800 million like was initially offered to them. They could have gotten that, but they didn't. You kept all those guys to build up your brand, to build up your worth, to build up your value to the LIV Tour. And once you got that value, you were like, sucks to suck, suckers. Later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get away from that for a little while. Your comments are still welcome on the show at 71307. Start your text with FAN, FAM. We'll read them on the air. If you have any thoughts on the merger, tomorrow at 10 a.m., we will be joined by Jay Busby of Yahoo Sports. Jay Busby going to join us here on the radio broadcast. He covers golf nationally for Yahoo. He has been invested in the game for many, many years, based out of Atlanta. He will join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. to give us his thoughts with a few days of hindsight to gain some clarity. Looking forward to that. When we come back on the radio broadcast to open up the next hour, y'all, something's happening in Clemson, South Carolina. About 3 days ago, the Gamecocks were able to brag because Shane was putting together a recruiting class that was, according to some sources, better than Clemson's. Not anymore. The last 3 days have been a heater for Dabo and the Tigers. So what the hell's going on? Let's take a look at that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, guys. Be right back. Hitting the restroom. Thank y'all for being here. Be right back. Perfect. Thanks. Joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. When you get the opportunity to talk to the fans, do you get joy when people tell you, I loved Arn Anderson growing up, or do you get more joy when people tell you, I hated your guts and it kept me coming back for more? Which one of those two do you prefer to hear?
I hated your guts. Even more so, my grandmother hated your guts. On the surface, that sounds a little disturbing because I am a granny lover. And in those days, man,
Arn Anderson's the best.
Great show, new time. Now 9 a.m. only on the Fan Upstate.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown. Yeah. Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Only
The Fan Upstate.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our numero dos goes now. Welcome back, my friends. Rob Brown, Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo. Want to remind you that tomorrow we will be live and on location. We will be out at Thornblade Country Club, where we will be covering the BMW Pro-Am. Our show will be live from 9 to noon. Mark Ryan and Offsides will be there from 4 to 7 p.m. Very much looking forward to that. It is going to be a fantastic day out on the course tomorrow, so come by, hang out with us. I will be out there on Friday. However, I am taking the day off and going as a fan. I'm a big golf dude. Some of the greats are going to be there. I will be there as a fan on Friday, so if you're going to be there Friday, come on over to see me. I'd love to get the chance to meet you. It is going to be a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and I hope that you guys will come out, support this event. It's incredible, and especially now, right? Like, I'm not going to go down the golf path again because we just spent a lot of time there. But one of the questions that I think it's fair to ask is, what does the future look like for golf, right? What does the future look like for golf? How does this impact events like the BMW Pro-Am? An event that brings huge name celebrities and, you know, who knows how many thousands of fans every year to the upstate to spend all their money watching an event. So, you know, support a local event like this and hopefully we can make it worth it. All right, let's get to this. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know precisely and exactly what it is. I got a theory. Clemson recruiting is on a bleeping heater right now. Sammy Brown, going to be a stud linebacker. He signs on the dotted line a couple of days ago. Yesterday, Clemson secured another 5-star commitment. Wide receiver and top 10 overall recruit Bryant Wesco out of Texas decided to sign on. He joins 4-star wide receiver TJ Moore, who signed on Tuesday as well. 24/7 Sports has Wesco ranked as a 5-star prospect and the top prospect out of the state of Texas. And y'all might not know this. Texas puts out some gosh darn football players is what the state of Texas does. And y'all just got the number 1 Texan football player right there. Top recruit in the state for 2024. He had opportunities from LSU, Oklahoma, TCU, and USC, amongst others. Wesco told 24/7 Sports, quote, I love everything about Clemson. The highlight of the visit for me was getting to spend time with the players and staff, playing games with all of them, and getting to know them. After the signings from Brown and Moore, Clemson got boosted up to the number 10 spot in the 24/7 Sports team recruiting rankings for the 2024 cycle, 1 spot above South Carolina. With the signing of Wesco, the Tigers are now up to number 8. They have jumped ahead of Tennessee and Florida State, an ACC rival who is expected to potentially be the biggest threat to Clemson's stranglehold on the ACC in, 8 years now. So to jump ahead of FSU is a big deal. Maybe, I'm going to say this respectfully to the Gamecock fans, it is a bigger deal for Clemson to jump ahead of FSU than it is South Carolina, right? Not because their rivalry with Florida State's a better one, but because their rivalry with Florida State goes a long way in determining the winner of the ACC and, starting next year, the winner of that automatic qualifier bid by winning the ACC. So getting up ahead of FSU is the actual most important part of this whole thing. Wesco is the 11th player in the 2024 recruiting cycle to commit to Clemson. So what is going on here? How did Clemson go from a team that was getting out-recruited by Shane Beamer to a team that is now holding on to the number 8 overall recruiting class for next year? And oh, by the way, there's time for addition for more. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that much like with money, prosperity breeds prosperity. As the old joke goes, what's the fastest way to become a billionaire? Be a millionaire. Because nothing makes money faster than money. Nothing gets recruits excited like signing on the line alongside other great recruits. But how did this turnaround happen? How did Clemson suddenly go from being out-recruited by Beamer to putting together one of the best classes in the country? And I think there's 2 answers to that. I think answer 1 is you are seeing the benefits of hiring a marquee offensive coordinator, right? You are seeing the benefit when you don't have a couple of natties in the last few years to lean back on. When you were constantly the top team in college football, it didn't matter who was the offensive coordinator, who was the defensive coordinator. Because kids want to play for trophies. They want to win titles. And so you could use the success you had to beget more success on the recruiting path. But when that kind of went away, and again, I love talking about 10-2 as if it's a failure, right? When you have that kind of success, it breeds more success. But I think that there is something else happening here. Alongside of the hire of Garrett Riley, which is a home run hire, right? Garrett Riley was the most sought-after offensive coordinator in college football recruiting circle. To bring him in kind of told the next generation of kids a few things. First and foremost, it told you, we're in this thing to be good. We're in this thing to win, right? The thought about Clemson in years gone by, that Dabo, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, was going to bring in Clemson guys. He was just going to move his guys up through the ranks. And don't get me wrong, I respect that. I like that. But at the end of the day, sometimes you've got to recognize there's usually somebody else somewhere else that can do the job better than the guy that you brought up through your system. And Dabo finally reached out to get that guy. Is Garrett Riley a guaranteed hit at Clemson? I don't know. I'm not going to say guaranteed. Do I think he's got a very good chance of being a hit at Clemson? Sure, of course. He just played for a national championship last year. Yes. And by the way, played for a national championship last year, coaching a team that was predicated on offense. Sure, they had Max Duggan, a Heisman Trophy finalist. But if there's one team over the past 10 years that has recruited star quarterbacks to come there, it is Clemson, yeah? So if he is a guy whose success is predicated on having great quarterbacks, he couldn't have picked a better school, and a better school couldn't have picked him. So The Riley pickup was a home run and that helped, but I think there's one more aspect to this. I think the other aspect to this is that despite the complaints, I think Clemson is settling into a balance here, right? I think they've settled into a balance of utilizing the tools that are on the table. And I'm talking about all of them. I am talking about utilizing the portal, both in and out, right? Both in and out, allowing guys like DJ Uiagalelei to go elsewhere. But more importantly, utilizing the portal to bring guys in to shore up spots. If you are a quarterback, you want to make sure you've got a great offensive line. I think this is happening right now in Tallahassee, for instance. Florida State, the last couple of years, has been leaning on the portal to bring in offensive linemen. And in doing so, their offense has been able to more rapidly fill spots where guys were leaving. I think NIL plays a big part of it. You don't hear a lot out of Clemson regarding the NIL, right? The biggest NIL story we've heard out of Clemson was when DJ Uiagalelei signed with Dr. Pepper a couple of years back. And then once DJ descended into mediocrity, we didn't even talk about that. But I think that Dabo kind of lightening up on the NIL talk has helped a bit. I think Dabo going from a couple of years ago, a guy that was just outright saying, I don't want players to get paid, to a guy who is now just really not saying anything. He doesn't really talk about it, is big. Not talking about it keeps it out of the news. Not talking about it keeps it away from recruits. Actively hear a head coach going, I don't want my guys to be able to better themselves financially away from the football field. Well, I got news for you. If 90% of the schools around America are going, hell yeah, we want you to be financially secure off the field. Yeah, you can take NIL here. And then there's a coach going, yeah, I don't want players getting paid. A lot of players are going to be put off by that. And you can go, well, we don't want guys who only play for the money. Nobody said they're only playing for the money. The money's a nice little benefit, right? The money's a nice little boost. That's not why they're doing it. So I think Dabo backing down off of that is another thing. But here is the third thing that I will tell you. I have gotten to do media days over the years at a lot of schools. Florida State, Florida, Alabama, LSU, UWF, which is my little bitty school, but it was interesting to see how at the time JUCO school worked. I've gotten to do a lot of media days. And I will tell you, at the risk of aggregating those of you faithful to the Garnet and Black that like me in the show, and in fairness, I actually have not gotten to do a media day in Columbia yet. I hope to. But I've gotten to do a lot of media days at a lot of D1 schools. And of all the media days that I have attended over the years, Clemson set the standard. Now, a media day, for those of you that don't know, words are hard. A media day, for those of you that don't know, is effectively a recruiting trip for the media, right? Clemson or LSU, Bama, whoever, when they do a media day, they are bringing in just about everybody who might have any sort of responsibilities of covering that team. They're buttering you up, right? They want you to say good things about them. A university's program lives and dies not just by fan support, but media coverage as well. So they bring folks like me in, and they feed us breakfast, and they let us meet the head coach, and they usually have some kind of activity scheduled. Alabama, I did a media tour for Alabama a number of years ago, and they gave us a very in-depth tour of the facility, right? They took us to Bryant-Denny Stadium. They brought us out on the field. It was actually very cool. They walked us around the field, and they pointed out different spots on the field, and they said, this is where this happened. This spot right here is where so-and-so caught a pass against this team in 1974 to guarantee a berth in the Sugar Bowl, or whatever. And then they had a person with a tablet who would play that play on the screen, and then you would stand in that spot. It was very, very cool to experience that. Clemson, when they brought us in the year I went, I didn't get to go last year because I had just moved into this time slot and we couldn't work it out. But the year I did get to go, the year before that, they brought us in, they fed us breakfast, they let Dabo give us a speech. They gave us a tour of the facility itself, which is an absolutely beautiful facility. And then they had us play games. Like a lot of play, they basically did what were like breakout rooms where that room's got the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinators over there and the quarterbacks over there. They instead brought in some of the veteran players. They had all the coaching staff. They set up like 10 mini games, Pop-A-Shot, golf driving simulator, bowling. They got a bowling alley in their facility, cornhole, like just bar games. And they had every group go to a game, like broke us up into small groups of like, I think 6, sent us over to a game. So for instance, you'd go over to bowling and Brent Venables was there, the at the time defensive coordinator. And you would have like 6-7 minutes as a group to talk with Brent Venables. And then you would bowl with Brent Venables. And everybody was talking smack and having a great time. And then you'd rotate. And then you'd go over to golf. And you'd have James Skolsky over there, along with the offensive coordinator. And you'd talk with them for 6-7 minutes. And then you'd play a game with them. And so you got to not only talk to them about football and talk to them about whatever else in the program, but then you got to like be a person with them for a little while, right? Because one thing that happens in the media is the same that happens with fans is when we look at a football player, what do we see? A football player. We can, in the heat of battle, forget that these people are people, that these people are human beings. And when you spend 15 minutes bowling with Brent Venables and he's cracking on you and you're cracking on him and everybody's having a good time, 6 weeks later, when his defense gives up 375 yards in a game, you're less quick to drop the elbow on him as a failure, right? Because you're like, I know that guy. I've bowled with that guy. I've thrown cornhole with that guy. He's great. That's what this is, a recruiting trip for the school to recruit the media into being good to them. Which means that one day I got recruited by Clemson, right? They recruited me to come there, to learn about the program, to familiarize myself with the program, to get comfortable with the program so that I would come back here and say nice things about them. And I will tell you that an in-person recruiting trip to Clemson was unbelievable. It really was. Every single detail from top to bottom was laid out. Every aspect of that thing was well put together. It was well coordinated. The facilities are gorgeous. There is something about turning the corner and seeing a whole ass bowling alley built into the facility. They gave us a tour of the locker room. They showed us all the uniforms they were going to be wearing, like in detail. This is the stitching. And I was blown away. I'm not a Clemson fan. I didn't grow up a Clemson fan. As I've told you guys, I'm a Clemson fan in as far as when Clemson wins, I make money. Go Tigers. Yeah? I was so blown away by that entire experience that I can absolutely see why Dabo laying off of the anti-NIL talk, the anti-portal stuff, et cetera, combined with, and again, I've traveled to a bunch of schools, combined with what was the best media day I have experienced at the D1 level, which is, again, a recruiting trip, but it's for us, not players. The best single and most enjoyable media day that I have experienced in my 15-year career. It is very obvious for me to see that since Dabo has laid off of the criticisms of the new era of college football and combined it with incredibly well put together and executed recruiting trips, Clemson's not dropping out of the top 10 in recruiting. They're not. The last 6 months, I was like, what's happening here? What's going on here? And again, as a South Carolina texter is very, very quickly to point out, none of them have signed. They are only verbal commits. Sure, there's absolutely the chance that any one, if not all three of these guys eventually goes, I changed my mind. But that happens less frequently. That's not common. And the fact that these guys have been very much in the public eye with this leads me to believe that they are happy with their decision to pull the trigger on getting a scholarship with the Clemson Tigers. A lot of criticism of Dabo Swinney. A lot of it fair. The dude is working the trail right now. He has stopped talking about the things that it is, to me, very obvious that recruits are concerned about. He has dialed in, focused in on positive messaging. That's always been his thing at Clemson. And again, they put together incredible recruiting trips to campus. And now that you can have guys on campus and do so with regularity, it doesn't shock me to see these things starting to happen once again for the team wearing orange. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We got a lot more to get into. We have got NBA Finals coming up tonight. Game 3 back in Miami. Can Jimmy Buckets do the one thing that he did in Game 2 and give the Heat a 2-1 lead tonight? Or will the guy he did it to be able to break out? We'll break that down later on in the show. We got some Stanley Cup talk because we still haven't gotten to that. And super regional discussions need to happen as well. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, got a live read here. Stay right there. We'll be right back. All right, dudes, we're back. Yeah, I'll come to that, James. I got something for that.
Holds up to 70. We want to hold up to 71,500 people.
If you're hired, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack. See why 4 out of 5.
Seems like you know where I'm going already, James.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs.
It's a little
that will significantly reduce the amount you will
smoggy today, Steve. But there's an air quality alert actually in the mountains. They said that it might make it all the way down here later on this afternoon. They don't know. But after tomorrow, there's a cold front coming in. It's going to remove some of the smoke, so it should be gone by this weekend.
They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now. Call 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171.
So much of life these days is rushing around from one place to another. Sometimes you just want to enjoy the journey on the way to the destination. And part of it makes it a little more enjoyable is appreciating in English, we know that the people who send you on your way are the same ones. I think you should take a fourth pin. Are you serious? English. Oh, okay.
The TTI Tool Sale is back this weekend only. Top brands at huge savings on power tools, floor care products, and outdoor power equipment. Friday and Saturday. While supplies last.
James, I agree with you, man. And they say it's 50% chance of rain. It's 50% of the state is not going to get any rain.
I've heard that before. That's not true.
They say that the area most likely is not getting anything. 5 seconds.
Make your way live on site or online at JeffHardenAuctioneers.com. Experience the difference. License 4283.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the fan upstate. Rob, Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo. He'll rejoin us on Monday. Tomorrow, we will be live out at the BMW Pro-Am out at Thornblade Country Club. The show will be live tomorrow from 9 to noon. So come out and hang out with us, and then we will be out there. I will be out there on Friday, taking a vacation day to go enjoy a little bit of golf. All right, let's get some more stuff in here as we run towards and through the halftime portion of the show. I want to start with this real quick. We talked Clemson. Now let's talk a little Carolina Panthers. Michael Kay covers the Panthers. Mike Kay covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. He talked yesterday with tight end Tommy Tremble. Now, Tommy Tremble has been an interesting player to me because we have seen flashes of Tommy Tremble here and there that made me think this dude could be a great quarterback. Tight end. This guy's 23 years old. He goes 6'4", 250, and he's quick, right? Last year, however, 19 snags for 174 yards and 3 touchdowns. But game-by-game log. Open against New Orleans. 1 target, 1 catch. At Tampa Bay, week 2 in a 30-24 loss. 3 targets, 3 snags. Week 3 against Detroit. 2 targets, 2 snags. Week after that, 2 for 3. The guy is remarkably consistent with his hands catching passes. Tommy Tremble has been a guy for me that I've been wildly frustrated with. Not with him, but with the game plan, because it feels to me like Tommy Tremble is a guy that could absolutely be an asset, could absolutely be a weapon for the Carolina Panthers. He is a dude that I have felt has been drastically underused. Now, I know Hayden Hurst is in town. Hayden Hurst is your starting tight end. I don't have any question about that. What I'm saying is Tommy Tremble at 6'4", 250 with quick and hands could absolutely be utilized as a weapon in wide set offenses, particularly down in the red zone, right? Not a lot of times I'm going to feel bad about sending a 6'4", 250 pass catcher out wide and see if I can't create one-on-one coverage with a 6-foot cornerback, right? Now, why am I bringing up Tommy Tremble? The reason is because Mike Kay had a sit down with Tommy Tremble at OTAs. And Tremble said, quote, "This is really the first time that we've really been coached up receiving-wise other than us trying to figure it out on our own," end quote. When Matt Rule left, or I guess, should I say when Matt Rule was kicked out of the Carolina Panther organization, the mentality I took as a radio guy was, I can't really blame everything on Matt Rule, right? The organization holds some level of responsibility here. The viewpoint I took as a fan was, everything's Matt Rule's fault. He sucks. Goodbye, right? I wanted to blame it on him as a fan. As an analyst who tries to remain impartial, I couldn't do it. I'm like, there's other issues at play here. And I don't know if it's Tepper. I don't know if it's Fitterer, but there's other problems here that need to be addressed. This, to me, kind of moves the needle back more towards maybe it is on Matt Rule. Now, maybe this is Tommy Tremble just trying to be a good team player, right? Like maybe Tommy Tremble is in that same camp. Maybe he's in the camp of, hey, let's blame everything. Let's blame everything on Matt Rule and give us the cleanest of fresh starts, right? I'll go back to the end of, Dark Knight Rises? The second Christopher Nolan Batman at the end where Two-Face is killed, but the public doesn't know he's Two-Face. They just saw Harvey Dent, the good guy who was going to clean up Gotham City, and they finally catch the Joker, and Batman's talking to Commissioner Gordon, and he's like, we got to tell everybody about Harvey, and Batman's like, no, blame it on me. Blame it on me. Why? Because if you can pin all the bad on one thing, when that thing goes away, we all get to pretend all the bad went away with it. So maybe this is Tommy Tremble going, let's pin it all on Matt Rule because Matt Rule's gone. And if Matt Rule's gone and all the bad was pinned to Matt Rule, then all the bad's gone too. This is the freshest of fresh starts. But I don't think I believe that. When Matt Rule got the boot from David Tepper, made his way to Nebraska, we started hearing the stories. We started hearing the stories about Matt Rule's cheesy OOU, one of us stuff. We started hearing the stories about Matt Rule's coaching practices, and they didn't sound great. They didn't sound great. So I actually tend to kind of lean towards believing Tommy Tremble that Matt Rule and a very college-centric offense, because I think it was, that he ran, and a college-centric offense that the tight end was an afterthought as a weapon, right? There are two positions on the football field that I think a lot of new age coaches overlook, don't pay attention to. Tight end and fullback, right? Tight end and fullback. Now, the fullback's fallen out of...
Fullback is pretty much almost gone nowadays.
Yeah, the fullback is pretty much fallen out. There are a few teams who maybe have like a hybridized fullback. The last team that I remember truly leaning on the fullback was like Sean Payton and the Saints. And maybe that's just because I'm a
Atlanta
Saints fan.
has a fullback.
Yeah, but how often does Atlanta lean on the fullback?
Before Arthur Smith, it was never. But now with Arthur Smith, he's trying to bring Tennessee 2.0 to Atlanta. He utilizes the fullback quite a bit in his offense.
Yeah, you're not wrong. In fact, if you go look at NFL depth charts, Atlanta's is one of the few that actually has a fullback listed as one of their circle positions. So again, I would also emphasize that I leaned on good teams that use the fullback, but that's just me taking a cheap shot at Atlanta. You're welcome.
Aints.
Call us what you want. We got a Lombardi, baby. Where's yours? Got him. So the tight end and the fullback to me are both wildly underappreciated positions, specifically in the NFL. And I think if I go back and I watch Matt Rule's offense, you would notice the same thing. The tight end was effectively considered an extra lineman. And yes, I want a great tight end that can block. But the tight end should be a weapon. The tight end does things on the football field for you, strategically speaking, that you can't do with a wide receiver. Forces defenses to stay in, drags a linebacker out of a potential blitz. If he does, it's a free pass right across the middle of the field. Like, there's a lot of options on the table put into play by a tight end that I don't think Matt Rule took advantage of. I don't think a lot of NFL coaches take advantage of. And I thought Tommy Tremble could have been that guy last year. I think Hayden Hurst has to be this guy this year for Frank Reich. Frank Reich does utilize the tight end more frequently. So for Tommy Tremble to come out and say, because he didn't say we didn't get coached up, he said we didn't get coached up receiving-wise. And that makes sense. That makes sense in a Matt Rule offense that did not use the tight end very frequently as an offensive weapon. For Tommy Tremble to come out and say, we're getting coached up on how to catch the ball. We're getting coached up on how to run routes, how to recognize gaps in defenses, how to find the hole in the zone coverage. We are getting taught how to be receiving tight ends and not having to figure it out on our own. Tells me exactly what I wanted to hear. When the Panthers drafted Bryce Young, one of the spots I said I wanted them to really put some emphasis on upgrading was tight end. Why? Because a tight end is a young, unexperienced quarterback's best friend. A tight end opens up the offense for a young quarterback to see the game develop until he gets to the point that he doesn't have to lean on the tight end anymore. But a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. That is why I love the pickup of Hayden Hurst. I have told you guys multiple times. I think that Hayden Hurst is going to be the most influential non-Bryce Young pickup of this offseason. And if what Tommy Tremble is saying here is true, and Frank Reich is going to lean on the tight end as being a weapon, it is going to make Bryce Young better for it. That's not a question. That's a statement. If Tommy Tremble is giving us an accurate assessment of Frank Reich's desire to use the tight ends as a pass-catching weapon, Bryce Young is going to be granted a lot more opportunity than he would have been if Matt Rule was still in charge. I believe that. Hurry up, football. We miss you. Let's take a break. When we come back, we got to get into NBA Finals game number 3. More importantly, genuinely curious. How many of y'all care about these NBA Finals? right? How many of y'all can, for those of you that have said that you don't watch the NBA because you prefer the old school game, this is the old school game. I'm wondering if there is a demographic shift in the number of people paying attention to this World Series because it is not star-studded. Let's talk about that and the series and Game 3 itself coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Here? Okay. Hang on, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Sorry, we had a minor crisis to avert there. All right, wrapping up hour number 1 of the Rob Brown Show. We do have some breaking news for you here. Yep, that's what I said, right? Yeah, absolutely. Nailed that one. We do have some breaking news for you right here. Very excited about this as we have reports coming out within the last half hour or so that Lionel Messi has decided to sign with Inter Miami. How about that? Messi was being courted by a number of high-level professional football clubs. Barcelona was in the mix as one of them, as was a Saudi Arabian team or 3 trying to land arguably the best player, or at least he was for a while, on planet Earth. Instead, Inter Miami, David Beckham's club, ends up getting Leo Messi to sign. Now, neither Messi nor Miami has announced a decision nor the details of that agreement, but it has been a few months that this has been speculated as a low percentage possibility. It has been a week or 2 since we started seeing some of the world's most prominent football clubs see themselves in conversations about getting Messi to come play for them. And instead, it appears that Messi will be playing right here in the United States in the MLS. And I'm going to go ahead and call the shot. This is a transformative moment for the MLS. This is a transformative moment for Major League Soccer, but for soccer in America as well. The MLS has been growing. Not as quickly as I would like to say that it has been, but it has been growing. We have seen expansion. We have more expansion coming down the pipe. We have seen some of the bigger American names staying around. Not all of the best, though. The Christian Pulisic's of the world are still going overseas to play their ball. But Messi coming to MLS gives a level of credibility to the league internationally. It gives a level of credibility to the league, to international players. It gives a level of credibility to the league that is enormous if he plays his ball in Miami. Now, Joey B just popped in, and I was going to get to that in a minute. Rumor I heard was he signs with Miami and then gets loaned to Barcelona for a season so he can be fit for one last run at the 2024 Copa America. Maybe. That is still on the table. That is absolutely a soccer possibility. But even if it's for a year, like if he signs a 5-6 year deal with Miami and then gets put on loan to Barcelona, if he comes back, even if we have to wait one more season, if he comes back and he plays that ball at Miami, now all of the sudden, Inter Miami games are sold out week in, week out. And every road trip Miami goes on is sold out week in and week out. I'm going to go and call a shot now. Joey B, I've told you this at a Triumph game before. The first time Leo Messi, regardless of the colors that he's wearing, plays up the road in Charlotte at BOA, you bet your ass Rob Brown will be in the building. Are you kidding me? A chance to see arguably the greatest footballer of all time? Yeah, I'm going to be there for that, without a question, right? But this is about the draw of other players. This is about, and I will go ahead and say, Miami has contacts because of Beckham and finances that a lot of other MLS teams do not have to make it easier to sign a guy like Leo Messi. Without a doubt. I'm not arguing that. But what it does do is it gives the league credibility. It boosts revenue for the league. Now, all of a sudden, the television contract with Apple or whoever they're going to run their TV deal through next year or the next time they negotiate it skyrockets. And it creates a scenario now, I think, where other MLS teams can benefit. So instead of catching Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the twilight of his career at LA Galaxy, now Galaxy can start bringing some of the younger players back to the league. Now Galaxy can start bringing some of the better European players. And if you start bringing some of the better younger European players, the league gets better. And if part of the reason guys like Pulisic and Reyna go overseas to play their ball is because that's where the best ball is played. It makes them better. It develops them as players, and it sets them up to be better served to have international success. Well, if some of those best players, and again, I'm not arguing MLS is ever going to catch the Premier League, but if you become a respectable league, if you become equivalent to, say, Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, and players who would be highlight players there suddenly look and go, okay, MLS, all right, that's a reputable league, and they show up. Now all of a sudden, the guys like the Pulisics and the Reynas might be justified to stay home. We'll see how it plays out. It's going to be very interesting, but if this ends up being true and Leo Messi is the newest member of Inter Miami, this is enormous for MLS. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, Game 3 of the NBA Finals is tonight. Denver at Miami. Series split 1 game apiece. What can Jimmy Buckets do? What can Jamal Murray do to help their team take a 2-1 lead? We'll break that game down when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
I hate that it did that jump, you know.
And on your computer at thefanupstate.com. This far in the rush hour traffic, most people would have rage accelerated at least once. But not you, Lacey, no hard accelerations ever, Johnson, because you are a safe driver. Unlike most drivers who sign up for
I just got that email he was talking about.
how much you drive, you could earn a discount for your good driving. So if your hula dancing dashboard doll thinks you're going to hard accelerate because you're running late, then your hula dancing dashboard doll doesn't know. Lacey, no hard accelerations ever, Johnson. Sign up for Snapshot today. Snapshot on all states for all ages.
The summer savings at the Home Depot will get your kitchen quick. The top brand of appliances, like a new GE refrigerator, water dispenser for a crisp, cool glass of water every time, or a GE oven with built-in air fryer for healthier, crispier options with no heat. Plus, with convenient shopping in store and online at the Home Depot, your innovative new appliances are just a click away too. Final days to save up to 30% on select appliances plus $300 off select refrigerators with the Home Depot and June 2nd. Prices out May 18th to June 7th, 2022. US only. See store online now.
Going to business brings pressure. It's not easy to maintain momentum and still keep employees engaged. Fortunately, there's Insperity. Their scalable HR solutions help me with hiring, training, HR administration, and compliance while giving my employees competitive benefit options. When my people are able to thrive, my business can adapt and prosper. With Insperity, nothing seems impossible. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. Like 64,000 reviews, recurring automated marketing messages from Babel. Message to get rates may find out history required terms apply available at babel.com/TNC.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Text radio to 64,000 to try Babbel for free. That's radio to 64,000 to try Babbel free. RADIO to 64,000.
No staring at your phone, no rolling in 2 hours late, no sweatpants, no jeans, and no shorts.
Do 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 do.
say that 5 times.
Nope.
Isn't Kaza Rizzo, whatever she said?
Not even going to try.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine. With Skyrizi, you can achieve 90% clear skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The Rob Brown Show, now 9 to noon.
You will only be able to remember Dylan Brooks in his last series with the Memphis Grizzlies because he will no longer be with the Memphis Grizzlies.
So
According to
you're at the 10 o'clock hour all of a sudden.
showing that the Grizzlies'
Yeah.
first round series was a quote breaking point, and the Grizz have said that they will not be bringing back Dylan Brooks quote under any circumstances end quote, which means that the last scene of Dylan Brooks as a Memphis Grizzly is going to be walking away from.
So after our first break, you have to give us live reads the last one.
Okay. Because quote he's old end quote. The last scene of Dylan Brooks as a Memphis Grizzly we're going to see is him walking out from the arena and wearing a big necklace that said DB for Dylan Brooks or.
Same great show, new time.
The Rob Brown Show.
Now 9 to noon, only on the Fan Upstate. Upstate. WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3, the official sports voice of the Upstate Fan. CBS Sports Radio. Live from the Philadelphia.
Man, check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, y'all. Great to be with you. Rob Brown, Brandon is here as well. Lonzo out on vacation. He shall return on Monday. Do want to remind you that tomorrow on the broadcast, we will be live at Thornblade Country Club, the site of the, half of the BMW Pro-Am. We will be out there on Thursday. And then I will be off on Friday. If you guys will be out at the Country Club on Friday, I will be there. Come by and say hi. Otherwise, my dog, Carlos with a K, will be here on Friday filling in. Both Lonzo and I will make our return next Monday to the radio broadcast. Here's how you get in touch with the broadcast for the final 44 minutes. I don't know, 48 minutes. I don't know how math works. 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. That's the phone line to get on the air. The text line is right there for you at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the radio broadcast. You guys quiet on the text line today. Real quiet on the text line. 71307, start your text with FAN. You can also stop by and watch the stream. Hang out with us live on the air. That's a real easy way to do it. All you got to do for that is go to facebook.com/thefanupstate. Go to twitter.com/thefanupstate. Go to YouTube, search and subscribe to the Fan Upstate, or go to Twitch and search and subscribe to the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. You can watch all 3 hours of the show live every single day. I will let you know later on if we will be streaming tomorrow. There's a whole world of required wizardry from our computer dorks in the other room required to set up the live stream. So I will be there early to see if I can figure it out. Hopefully we will have the stream up and going tomorrow. If we do not, don't forget that you can listen to the show live from your computer anyway. Go to thefanupstate.com, thefanupstate.com. There is a play live button there. You can also grab the Odyssey app, Audacy. The Odyssey app is available on your cellular and mobile devices. Get that Odyssey app. Favorite the Fan Upstate. Not only can you listen to the station live 24/7, 365, but on top of that, we podcast all 3 hours of the show every single day. We also put up highlight segments of the show every single day. And we are rolling out, and I will be experimenting with probably at the beginning of next week, our new Odyssey Go Live feature. Odyssey Go Live is effectively an unscheduled, unscripted, unprompted radio broadcast that we can do anytime we want, and it goes straight to your phone. It's actually a very cool thing. I will open it up. It sounds just like a radio show, but there are extra features to it. For instance, it is connected to a chat room, which means that when Go Live is live, you can directly chat with myself as well as other members of the Rob Brown Show Armada. Also, you can be made a guest, which means that I can give you permission to effectively come on and co-host with me on the Odyssey Go Live. So grab that app, Audacy. Grab that Odyssey app and make sure you have push notifications turned on so that we can go live and chat with you. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and call the shot now. I'm probably going to do one tonight during Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Probably will do a go live tonight. So if you are an NBA fan, grab that Odyssey app, click the little heart button once you search The Fan Upstate. And once you are there, make sure you have push notifications turned on. Stop by this evening. Jump in. Let's talk some hoops. Texter said, Rob, it's quiet because all the Clemson fans are on vacation as Clemson sports are done for the year. JT and Greer. Shots fired. Shots fired. Hey, Gamecocks on the way down to Gainesville, Florida, where they'll take on the mighty Gators of Florida in the Super Regional. Clemson, unfortunately, just hit the skids at the wrong time, bounced from their own regional by the Charlotte 49ers, and their baseball season has come to its conclusion. However, as we mentioned earlier in the show, if you missed it, again, go to the website, thefanupstate.com, or go to your Odyssey app, click on the podcast button, and go listen to the first segment of the last hour where we broke down what is going on in Clemson that has led to this absolute recruiting blitz this week. If you missed that segment, again, it's available in podcasted form. First segment of hour number 2, go pick it up. All right, let's talk NBA Finals for just a minute. Genuine question. And I do want you to text in your answer. Okay, 71307, start your text with FAN. Are you watching? Are you interested in? Are you participating in? Do you have on the back burner? Are you paying no attention at all to the NBA Finals? Now, I know a lot of people don't like the NBA. I don't get it. I never will. But hey, it's your life. Do your best. Live your best life. But for those of you that do watch basketball, are you paying attention? Do you care about these NBA Finals? Because I think there is a very interesting theory that is being tested out right now. One of the things that has been discussed over the years is that the game has become less about basketball and more about the stars of the league, right? And I think that is fair. For instance, we are in the midst of the NBA Finals. 2 days ago on the radio broadcast, on Monday, when we got in here, the day after, Miami pulled an upset win on the road at Denver and leveled that series up at 1 game apiece. The morning after that, I came in here, I turned on the television. It was left on one of the sports talk television channels. And the segment that the particular debate show opened with was, where do the Lakers go from here? I don't know, the golf course, the beach, Cancun, the bar. They got options, right? They can go anywhere they want. All those places are open, and they don't have any basketball to be played. Then, the next day, yesterday, I get off the air. I go onto social media. I'm starting to look around at different talks about what's happening in these NBA finals, right? And what do I see is the number one trending headline regarding the NBA. Kyrie Irving says he and LeBron should team up in Dallas. And don't get me wrong, LeBron, Kyrie, and Luka is a very interesting trio. I'm not a Kyrie guy. I don't know if Kyrie has the humility to learn to be number 2 on a lineup. I think that was part of the problem in Brooklyn. I do think that he understands that any team that LeBron is on, LeBron's the feature. I don't think he says this if he doesn't understand that. For the record, LeBron's not going to Dallas. All right, everybody pump the brakes. It's just a fun little thought experiment. You pair the two of those guys and open the floor up for Luka Doncic, especially at a point in his career where LeBron James has proven that he absolutely wants guys around him to carry the load with him, right? You go back and you look at that last 2 games from LA against Denver, where Braun goes out and gives you 31 first half points, comes out in the second half, is looking for anybody to take some of the load off. Couldn't find him. I think we've hit a point in the career where LeBron is happy to share the load. So that makes that trio very interesting to me. Now, do I think that that's going to happen? No. No, I don't. I don't think LA is going to let that move happen. I don't, frankly, know if Mark Cuban's interested in that move or not. We'll see. But the point is, I got off the air yesterday. It is the day before NBA Finals Game 3. It is the day before NBA Finals Game 3 with a shockingly 1-1 tied series, a heavy underdog team, a heavy favorite team, a team that saw their superstars score 41 points and lose, and the discussion is LeBron and Kyrie. It's frustrating. So I think there's this theory that is being tested out right now in these NBA Finals of, does the NBA need stars to drive the game, or can they just put out good basketball and keep viewership at its high? Because this series has been good basketball. Denver didn't go up 1-0 because Miami choked. Miami didn't go up 1-0 because Denver choked. Denver's up 1-0 because they played an excellent game 1. Miami squared it up at 1 apiece because Eric Spoelstra, like the mad scientist that he is, went to the lab, figured out everything that went wrong, corrected it, made some adjustments, came back out, they fired their bullet, and we're level. This series, to me, is perfection. It is got the potential, I think. I did pick Denver in 6. It's got the potential, I think, to go down as a historic series. It's got everything. It's got a classic 5 big man who can, by the way, shoot the 3. It's got 2 outstanding shooting forwards going neck and neck. It's got an excellent set of role players who understand what their roles are and play them very well. This series has got the opportunity to be a classic, and yet it seems like everybody wants to talk about everything except the NBA Finals.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like old school basketball, the way it was back in the 90s and early 2000s, the way it should be. You know, like you got a true like 90s and 2000s center in Jokic, and then you got 7 undrafted players on Miami's team. It feels like old school basketball the way it should be.
I've been saying that for a week. This series feels like basketball used to feel in the 90s, but in a 2023 environment, right? I have got players that are bigger, longer, and more athletic than they've ever been in the NBA. That's incredible. I've got a true, in every sense of the word, big man in Nikola Jokic, right? Who I have described multiple times and will again as the most boring great player I've ever watched. Head down, drive to the rim, lay it up. It's classic old school basketball, and I'm here for it. You've got playoff Jimmy buckets in the playoffs, putting that Heat team on his shoulder and driving through. I got Jamal Murray, a guy who is trying to prove to the nation that he deserves to be listed amongst the best players in the NBA today. Now, bit of a problem there because in game 2, he started out hot. Jimmy buckets locked him down, and Jamal Murray disappeared. That's why Jokic had 41. I promise you, Nikola Jokic does not. In fact, I pointed this out to you, Monday? The Nuggets are 0-3 in the postseason in games in which Nikola Jokic scores 40 points or more. He does not want to score 40 points. He wants to score 27 to 30 points and end up with 14 assists. Instead, he ended up with 41 and 4 assists, I think, in that game. That ain't going to get it, right? So the question mark here is, can Jamal Murray shake Jimmy Butler tonight and provide the help that Nikola Jokic was getting used to? If the answer is yes, the Nuggets go up 2-1. If Jimmy Buckets locks Murray down again, it's going to be 1-2 in favor of Miami. All of that being said, this game has a pair of excellent head coaches butting heads. This series has two teams that heavily lean on their role players to step up, to be accountable, to play the right spot on the floor at the right time. This series has everything in it that I think you require for a classic NBA series. And like I said, it feels to me like when I go look through NBA message boards and NBA streams and all of that, the more that I do, the more that I see, the more it seems everybody's talking about everything else, and that's disappointing. However, the ratings seem to be pretty level. Game 2 of this NBA series matched the viewership of Game 2 from last year's NBA Finals. Last year's NBA Finals was celebrated, right? We got stars, we got dynasties, we got legacies, we got all. This year, we don't have stars. I mean, Jokic is a star, but only because people like me forced him to be, right? You go watch any NBA debate show right now, and they're not talking about Nikola Jokic being a great player. I've been telling you for about 3 months now, Nikola Jokic's season this season is going to be one of the reasons that down the road, Jokic is going to be mentioned as one of the greatest of all time in the big man role. Jimmy Buckets is a playoff star, but in the regular season, nobody puts Jimmy Butler up there as one of the all-time greats. Never have. Now you got both of them doing battle, but not like classic, true NBA superstars like we're used to, yeah? It's role player driven. It's blue collar basketball. It's head down, get to the rack. It's two coaches trying to match each other tit for tat. And it's great. And my question is, how many of you guys care? How many of you guys care? How many of you guys are interested in this? Texter said, Rob, I love the NBA and this finals. I'm pulling for the Heat. Texter said, I don't hate football, basketball, soccer, just boring crap. Man, everybody gets their opinion. Even if it's wrong, you get your opinion. I love this series. Game 3 tonight. I'm leaning Denver. Listen, I'm not backing off Denver in 6. I'm not backing off Denver in 6. I can't. I won't. They're the better team. Miami wins this game. Scratch that. Miami is in this game and in this series because of Eric Spoelstra. I love this team. We talked about it Monday. I love that after their win in game number 2, like every player on the team said at some point in some way, we don't give a damn. We don't care. We don't care what you think. We don't care what they think. We don't care what the media thinks. We don't care what we don't care what anybody thinks. We're grinding out. We're doing what we do. And they have been. And I love that. I love that attitude. I wish Miami was playing anybody else because I'd be pulling Miami right now. I don't like Miami. I'd be pulling for Miami right now. This game tonight, I think Jamal Murray breaks out of it, right? He and Michael Malone have had a couple of days to look at what Jimmy Buckets was doing to remove him from the game, make the game. Here's the deal. You got Nikola Jokic. Work the game around Jamal Murray tonight. Force Miami back into a zone to defend Jokic. And the second that they do it, immediately go to Jamal Murray and let my dude cook. You do that, Nuggets win. If they don't, Heat go up 2-1 after stealing home field. Let's take a break. When we come back, got a few more stories that I want to run through, including a hilarious quote from Rory McIlroy from about an hour ago. Tell you what that is and more coming up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the stream, we got a live read. Stay right there. We will be right back. right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is the Fan Upstate. Glad to have you along for the ride. 844-326-3663 is the number if you want to get in here today. Now's a wonderful opportunity to do just that. You can text us at 71307. Texter says, Rob, I watch the NBA Finals every year. I love this year's Finals but I think that the reason this one is great and that most aren't liking it is because the league seems to be moving towards less super teams in which players actively collude to win titles. That's from Chris, UNC Chris. Thank you, Chris, for the text. Appreciate that. Yeah, I certainly think that there is a mindset that has been established, especially with the NBA's younger viewership, right? Because, and you hear that every time you talk basketball between the old hats and the new bloods in the game. The old hats were very used to players who, once they were on a team, they were on the team, right? Like, that's just where they played. Jordan was a bull. Same people that, like, flipped out when they saw him in a Washington jersey. We all forget that happened. New blood players, young basketball fans have gotten used to players jumping around the league. Not just jumping around the league, but calling their shots, right? Durant, Harden, Westbrook, Irving, Braun, Wade, Bosch, Pierce, Garnett, all these guys for the past probably 16, 17 years. Players have been not just jumping teams, but calling their shots when they do it. I'm going to go play here. And when I get there, they're going to sign these two stars. And they've basically gotten their way. Now, I don't particularly blame the league for that, right? Like, if you're an owner and three superstars say they want to band together under your team's flag to win a title, hell yeah, you take that. And I think for most fans, where you stand on the concept of super teams is predicated by one thing. Is your team one of them, right? There's a lot of teams like Dallas, that are very proud of the fact that they rely on homegrown teams, homegrown talent, homegrown coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And there are other teams like Brooklyn that have leaned heavy into trying to build something through agency. I don't have a problem with either because either one of them can very well work. You can win by building a super team. You can win by building a homegrown team. The Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat are two perfect examples of squads that, by and large, built great role player dedicated teams and are now on the cusp of winning a national championship, a world championship because of it. So I certainly think you are right to some degree, Chris. I think you're right to some degree in the fact that there is an attitude shift amongst fans, right? I feel like a series like this would have been the norm in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, right? Very San Antonio Spurs-ish. I feel like a series like this would have been the norm back in the day, but it is the anomaly now. It is the exception. We are used to super teams. And we have two very much not super teams going on here. We have Denver, who went and found Nikola Jokic, developed Nikola Jokic, a guy who just looks like your dad's very, very large friend, who is a plumber, and turn him into a guy that I genuinely think is a threat to be labeled the best player in the game right now. He's not as athletic as, say, a Giannis Antetokounmpo. But in terms of what the guy can do on the floor, there's not a spot he's not hell, in the last game, Jokic grabbed a board and went coast to coast through the Miami defense for a bucket. There's not many guys that can do that.
You know who he reminds me of? Arvydas Sabonis. Do you remember him playing when he played for the Trailblazers?
Big Z, baby.
Yeah, he reminds me so much of him. He played old school basketball, but he could pass, he could score, he could block, he could run. He was an incredible player. I grew up, loved watching him. And now you see Jokic, and Jokic just, his game is mirrored after Sabonis. I feel it.
I'm not mad at that. I certainly think, obviously, that Nikola Jokic is slightly more talented than Domantas Sabonis, but I really don't hate the comparison. I don't know, man. Like I said, I adore this series. I think this series is an NBA classic, but I think it does a wonderful job of putting on display the generational differences between the old hats and the young hats. Like, I kind of almost wish that a super team, and by the way, I don't think super teams are as prevalent as they're made out to be nowadays, right? I don't think there are as many as there used to be. I think the Lakers could theoretically qualify to be called one. Brooklyn exploded. That didn't work. And by the way, I also think as players continue to do this and it continues to be disastrous, I think you're going to see a lot of owners become less and less willing to try it, because more often than not, it ends in failure. And then you look at, again, a team like Brooklyn, who all they got out of their blowing up of their super team was what? Few draft picks from Phoenix and Ben Simmons, who I don't think has played a game since he got there, right? What have they gotten from that? So I think we are kind of seeing the pendulum start to shift back the other direction. There is a balance somewhere in the middle, and we'll see if we strike it this time around. But I think it put on a generational difference. I really kind of wish that we would have had a super team versus Denver or Miami, because I think then we would have had some really interesting conflict between the young generation and the old hats who love team basketball. But what I hope would happen here, and I'm going to sound like an old guy now, get off my lawn. What I hope happens here is that we have a spectacular series, and so far we've had, these two games have both been very good. I hope we have a spectacular series, and I hope some of the young basketball fans out there, the ones that, started their journey as an NBA fan when LeBron was in his prime, see it, recognize what they're seeing, understand what they're seeing, and start to appreciate what they're seeing, instead of going, oh, none of the cool guys, none of the Durants, the Giannis Antetokounmpos, none of those guys are out there. I hope they start to see and recognize what they are getting treated to in this series, because I think we are getting treated to something very, very special here, and I think it is important. All right, let me get another story or two before we get out of here for the day. How about my dog, Rory McIlroy? Rory DGAF, as the kids say, man. Rory got in front of a mic, and he was asked about the frustrations of the fans of golf after this Live Tour PGA merger that broke the news yesterday. And Rory McIlroy said he understands the frustration of the fans. And then he said, quote, I still hate the Live Tour. I still hate the Live Tour. The Live Tour he works for now, if he stays a PGA Tour golfer. That's unreal, man. I still hate the Live Tour. I don't know. I laid out some stuff back in the first hour. If you missed it, go to thefanupstate.com. You can pick up the pod of the first hour where we really kind of broke down some of the sounds, some of the thoughts that were laid out yesterday by a number of different folks. I get it if you're Rory, right? And I get it twice now. My question is, and I know the answer already, the answer is yes, but my question here is going to be, hey, Rory, how do you feel about Jay right now? How do you feel about Jay Monahan right now, right? Because Rory turned down, estimated.
Be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
That's a fact. Oh, I would have paid any of the cost of admission to have been in the players meeting last night when they tried to soothe all this over. I'd have given any money to be in that room when Jay Monahan walked in front of the players, A, and B, more importantly, when he walked out and it was players only in the locker room. I'd have given anything to have been there for that. I am curious as to how Rory, Tiger, Jon Rahm, Will Zalatoris, all these guys who passed up tens, if not hundreds of dollars. Remember, Tiger had an offer of around $750 million to switch over. And keep in mind, that would have eased his schedule up. It would have seen him playing fewer holes per tournament. Go back to the Masters. Tiger had a pretty good Thursday, Friday. And then as Saturday went on, he started to degrade. We had the weather and all that. And by the time Sunday rolled around, he had to drop out because of his issues. LIV Tour plays 3-round tournaments. Tiger's struggles have been coming at the end of the third and then through the fourth when he's played them. How much better on Tiger's knees would it have been to play 54 instead of 72, right? So this is $750 million. And again, I don't care if you're a billionaire. $750 million is a hefty sum of cash. If you're Rory, right? Like Tiger and Rory were working alongside the PGA to come up with ways that the PGA could grow in lockstep or hopefully outpace LIV Tour. Rory turned down what is believed to have been an offer between $300 and $400 million. That's a lot of golf tournaments Rory's going to have to win to make up that, right? Will Zalatoris, a guy who has had some really good showings, but hasn't, if I recall off the top of my head, won a whole hell of a lot, at least outright. Will Zalatoris got offered $100 million to come play on the LIV Tour. He turned that down. All of them turned it down to wave the banner of the PGA Tour. And guess where all that money is now? Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour. Imagine being I'll tell you right now, Jay Monahan will never again be trusted by these players. They will never give him the benefit of the doubt. They will never trust him to make the right judgment and leadership calls. It will never happen again in the duration of Jay Monahan's life. In fact, don't be shocked, by the way. Don't be shocked if Jay Monahan isn't with the PGA Tour in the near future, right? My bet is, I don't have any evidence or proof for this. It's just a hunch. But my hunch is when this deal went through, considering we now are under the impression that the decision was made by effectively Jay Monahan and a very small number of PGA Tour officials, I would not be shocked to find out down the line that those tour officials had a nice little golden parachute built into the sale contract, right? Hey, Jay, we know the players are going to hate you. We know the fans are going to hate you, but we want to get this done. So here's the deal. If you will sign the deal so the sale goes through, and then you are, for whatever reason, removed from the office of the CEO, effectively, of the new for-profit organization, how about a check for, I don't know, $500 million? How about we write you a check for $500 million and you can ride off and head on down to, Maui and never have to worry about golf again in your life? Wouldn't be shocked to see that happen. So I am not surprised that Rory McIlroy, quote, still hates the LIV Tour, end quote. I would too. I would too if I got cost $400 million by a group that then stabbed me in the back a year and a half later. Ouch. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We will call this show a show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rob Brown, Brandon in for Lonzo. We're back after this to wrap it all up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. No idea, Skrilla. No idea. Literally, all the details we have is that LIV and PGA have merged. That's all we know. And that the players are furious about it, and understandably so.
mealtime quick and easy so you can get back to the action. This is John Allers, NHL play-by-play announcer for Sports USA. And with my busy travel schedule, I don't often know what my next meal is going to be. But HelloFresh makes dinner time a snack with delicious recipes and pre-portioned ingredients delivered to my door for less than takeout. Pick from 40 weekly recipes, as well as hundreds of sides, snacks, desserts, and more that make dinner not only easy, but convenient. With HelloFresh, it's okay to be picky, as they have the meal plan that suits your unique lifestyle. Get HelloFresh and check Eat Well and save money off your to-do list with satisfying recipes that are cheaper than grocery shopping. Bring out your inner chef with foolproof, easy-to-prepare recipes. Get 16 free meals plus free shipping with code SKATE16 at HelloFresh.com/SKATE16. That's code SKATE16 at HelloFresh.com/SKATE16.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe. Fix some seats so every fan can enjoy every game.
See what Josh just said?
Nothing, Skrilla, in theory, right? Like nothing in theory. But the problem is competition is ultimately designed to eradicate one or the other, right? Like it's designed to get rid of somebody. You don't try to beat somebody and then let them exist in your shadow. You try to run them out of business. And the reason, like I said earlier in the show, I think the reason, or a big chunk of it, that this deal was made was because ordinarily competition also means that both sides have X amount of limited resources that they can lean on, right? Like with the NFL team by team says you can have 53 players on your dress roster plus an emergency quarterback. That's a new rule. You can spend X amount of millions of dollars in salary. You can't go over that. And it is intended to level parity across the game. But then you look at the NFL and say USFL or XFL. Like those two organizations were basically obligated to pair with the NFL because if either of them flew the banner in the face of the NFL would squash them because they're playing on God mode with resources and those two smaller leagues aren't. I think the PGA Tour saw Live Golf growing and growing very rapidly and was like, uh-oh, right? Because not only were they growing and growing rapidly, although their TV contract didn't show that, you've also got to keep in mind that television networks are probably more sensitive to fan response, right? Like it's one thing if Phil Mickelson decides that he's happy to take Saudi Arabian money, but what happens to Fox's ratings if Fox takes Saudi Arabian money, right? Like they're going to get, I hate the term, but canceled for doing that. And again, I hate the term not because I disagree with it, but because I don't think canceling is real. I think social consequences are. Yeah, I don't know. The Rob Brown Show continues. Final segment. If you want to jump in here, I got a little room for phone calls, texts, tweets, emails, etc. 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. You can text us 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the radio broadcast for you. Want to remind you, coming up tomorrow, show will be live 9 to noon like normal, but we will be live on location. We will be out at Thornblade Country Club. That is the site of the BMW Pro-Am. We'll be broadcasting live. We will hopefully have some of the celebrities coming through as guests. We'll tell you everything that's going on at the country club, as well as be joined at 9:40 by Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. We'll talk about everything going on in OTAs right now. And at 10 o'clock tomorrow, very excited about this one, we'll be joined by Jay Busby. Jay covers golf nationally for Yahoo Sports. Jay is going to join us tomorrow on the radio broadcast to break down from his perspective and with a couple of days of hindsight everything that is going on with this PGA Live Tour merger. That is going to be on tomorrow's edition of the show. Then also want to remind you that I will be out on Friday. I am out on Friday. Carlos with a K will roll up in here alongside Brandon. They will bring you the always incredible Rob Brown show on Friday. Lonzo and I will make our ever triumphant return to the show together in tandem coming up next Monday.
You know, ironically, next week I go on vacation to Charleston with my family. So it's going to be kind of cool to still be able to listen to you guys on the Odyssey app. So I'm looking forward to hearing the show and looking forward to hearing about Lonzo's vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good time. All right. Couple more things I want to get in here real quick, and stuff we'll probably get into next week on the show. Really just kind of drop the info on you real quick. We have found out, got this news earlier this week per Yahoo Sports, that Scoot Henderson. Scoot is considered the number 2 pick in this draft unless you go Brandon Miller. Scoot Henderson is working out with only 3 teams before the NBA draft. He is working out with the Portland Trailblazers, and he is working out with the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this does not tell us anything about the inclination of the Hornets and who they expect to pick with the number 2 overall draft pick this year. Scoot Henderson is an excellent point guard who played for the G League Ignite this past season. However, you have LaMelo Ball on the roster, who is a point guard who plays the same game. So the question mark, I think, here is going to be, do you run a 2-point guard team? Do you try to transition one to being a shooting guard? I honestly think LaMelo Ball could play a fine shooting guard, a ball-handling shooting guard who plays the number 2, let Scoot play the 1. I don't think it tells us anything about it, because here's the reality. Whether you plan on drafting him or not, you'll work out Scoot to see how he works with the coaches, how he works with other players, how he works in the facility. You do everything you can. You do all the due diligence just in case, because maybe Scoot says a thing that makes Charlotte staff go, oh, he is the guy. Or maybe you bring him in and he works out and you go, oh, yeah, no, Brandon Miller's the guy. Brandon Miller's definitely the guy. We need a shooting forward more than we need a second point guard. We got to go Brandon Miller here, or we trade back, right? We'll see how it goes. I don't know how that's going to work out. I do find it interesting that Scoot is working out with 2 teams, and one of them is the Hornets, which means that Scoot Henderson does not believe he is going to be available down past that number 3 spot when the NBA draft rolls up. Again, we know there are 3 options here, I think, for the Hornets. You're going Miller, you're going Scoot, or you're trading back, and you're picking up a handful of picks for one of those 2 guys, and you're going to put off being good for 1 more year. What also, by the way, drives Michael Jordan out of the franchise, which at this point I'm kind of fine with, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're going to call it. We'll call it a day. Again, tomorrow, live, Thornblade Country Club. That is where we're going to be tomorrow, 9 to noon. The show is live. We'll be hanging out afterwards as well. If you are going to be out there, come see me. Texter said, Rob, some of us have to work. Middle finger emoji. Yeah, I get it. I mean, so do I. So I'll work hard for you tomorrow out at Thornblade Country Club. Yeah, I'm not joking. It's going to be a tough day's work for Rob Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show half as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Have a lovely rest of your afternoon. R.I.P. to the Iron Sheik, one of the greatest of all time, maybe the greatest heel of all time. R.I.P. to the Sheik. We'll do a little tribute tomorrow because it's my show and I want to. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow live from Thornblade Country Club for the BMW Pro-Am. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow to do it better. Have a great one. I'm Rob. He's Brandon. This is The Rob Brown Show. This is The Fan Upstate. Later, brother. That's almost a fact, James. It really is. It really is. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. I appreciate you spending your time with us every weekday. Again, tell your friends about it. Streaming numbers are a little down this week. We would love to correct that by the end of the week if you don't mind. I will put up on social media later today whether or not we're going to be able to have a stream tomorrow. You guys will be first to know. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Goodbye.